How are you guys? You guys ready? We have a long day, I'm sure she just described. It's going to be exciting. A lot of topics, a lot of workshops, a lot of content. Yeah. So good to see you guys. My name is Darius Moeini, as already described. I'm happy to be here. I didn't expect this Game of Thrones in winter. That surprised me a little bit, but we're here now. We're making it work. So my name is Darius Moeini. I've been doing this for some time. I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years. I can tell you a little bit about how it started for me. I was a consultant, a management consultant in New York and Dubai. And as it goes with this type of person, I was in my mid-20s as a guy. In New York, I was so confident and arrogant, and it was so much fun. To be a consultant, male in your 20s is the best thing ever, because you feel so like you own the world, right? So I built the confidence, I made some money, and then I thought, I'm gonna do this startup thing that everybody talks about, because I'm so great at everything, right? I'm so confident, I can do this easily. So I went to Berlin. I'm from Germany. I went back to Berlin, and I put all of my money into this one really great idea, and we started building this company, and boy, was that shit. Within 8 months, I lost all of my money that I've had worked for 3 years. So it was so insane. So we started the company, and we hired people, we built a product. We didn't listen to our consumers or users at all. We just thought we were doing something great, and nobody cared at all about what we do, right? So that was my first experience. I've been doing this for 10 years now. Thankfully, a couple of my projects were good as well. So I was able to sell one company to a food conglomerate, a smaller asset deal, but better than nothing, right? So I hope that I can transfer some of these learnings across the last 10 years. I've been involved with 10 different entrepreneurial projects into the mindset and process and methodology for SME innovation. Quick word about what we actually do. NUMA is a global startup acceleration program. We have startup acceleration programs all over the world. We've accelerated more than 500 startups globally. That means we've supported them in raising funds and developing their product market fit, hiring people and launching into markets, right? Nowadays, we're mostly focusing on corporates and intrapreneurship. So we're going to have some time now to talk about SME innovation and 10x mindset. And what happens in our industry, in the startup field, is that we say a lot of buzzwords, right? There's a lot of buzzwords coming at you today. So we thought we'd take a bit of the seriousness out of this and play a game. Who here knows bingo? You know bingo, right? All right, great. So let's do the bullshit bingo version. So in my lecture, in the next 1.5 hours, I will use probably several of these idiotic words, right? So let's play a game. Every time you hear it, you hear one of these words that I say, you will make a mark. And every time you find 3 words that I said that are total bullshit, of course, you scream bullshit, and then you get some chocolate. Is that a good deal? Who is in to play? Who wants to play? All right, great. So we have a lot of chocolate. So feel free to take a second to look at to prepare yourself. What kind of words we have? You know, pivot, growth hacking, viral marketing. I'm sure you've all heard these terms a lot of times before. You know, because these are things that we say in the startup environment a lot. And if not, we're going to hear it today. So take a second and look at the bullshit potential. Lean startup, influencer, Uber for X, Tinder for X. Hey, they're good. Hey, this worked well. Yeah.
I know. I think you read 3 things from the.
This is the first time somebody actually outsmarted me. Well done. He definitely deserves chocolate. Nobody has ever done this before. This is brilliant. Very good. It's going to be a good day today. There's nothing wrong about it. It's just that it's a buzzword. We'll make it a joke that it's bullshit. It's a category, yeah. Of course, the bullshit part is just a little bit fun, of course. Some of this stuff is bullshit. Some of them is very, very real methodology. Which is bullshit or not? Yeah. Okay. We'll find out. The bullshit part is just the fun part of it, right? Okay, let's get started. From my experience, coming from a startup environment and having started to work with bigger corporations, a lot of people romanticize the way we work in startups. They think, oh my God, it is so nice to work in a startup. It is so amazing, everything goes so fast, and Silicon Valley is so amazing, and they're changing the world and disrupting the world, right? And big companies and SMEs, they keep telling us we want to be agile like startups, right? Already? No, that was one, you have to go 3. No, you have to give me chocolate now. I want chocolate or money, it's fine. No, yeah, no, that wasn't 3 times. He's cheating. Yeah, take his name, he's cheating. So, there is this romanticism, there is this romantic view on what startups do and the whole agile mindset of startups. But the truth is, it's not that wonderful to be agile. Because agility actually comes at a cost. Agility comes at a very real monetary cost, because agility is pretty much the opposite of automation and standardization, right? And standardization, automation is, if you're all, several of you have studied business, is how you achieve economies of scale. So we have agility that we romanticize currently in our industry, but on the other hand, you have corporate standardization and economies of scale. So it's not that easy, it's not that romantic, it's not that wonderful to be a startup. So we have to look at this mindset, this methodology, this lifestyle, this corporate style, this organization style with a little more nuanced intellectualism, right? So the truth is, it's always nicer on the other side. We all know the grass is always greener on the other side, right? If you're a corporate, oh my God, it would be so much fun to be like a Silicon Valley startup, right? And if you're a startup, you think, oh my God, it would be so nice to have all of the resources and clients and profitability, right? So let's look at that together. Is that okay with you guys? Yeah? So let's start with startups and look at what they're good at and what they're bad at. Because startups are easier to make fun of, right? What are they good at? What are they bad at? And then we will go to the corporate side. What are some stereotypes you have about startups? Tell me. What do you think? What is the first thing that comes to your mind if you think of a startup? Arrogance. Hey, that's just based on what I just said, right? Arrogance. Okay, what else you have? Burning money. Okay, what else? They think they're unique. Okay, yeah, good. What else? They're vegetarian, right? They're vegan even. Oh, that's a whole new level then. No, they have beards. They're all hipster, right? All right. A lot of the stuff that you hear about startups is of course true, but let's look at what really matters about startups and what not. So, reasons why you can love startups. Very first, the most important thing for me is the get shit done mindset. And that is a very, very different thing to an SME life or a corporate life. It is the done is better than perfect idea. Because what it is if you have a running business, you want perfection. You want, because you have customers, you want to be perfect, you want to make no mistakes, you want to do everything the way it's supposed to be. That is the SME and corporate mindset. In a startup environment, you want to grow no matter what. And that is something that comes with a whole momentum. It's an idea, it's a mindset, it's a lifestyle. This done is better than perfect does usually not work in an SME or corporate context, but it works very well in a startup context. Right? So it's just this mindset of growth instead of perfection. And having said that, done is better than perfect, we have to look at this. Have you guys heard of this before? Move fast and break things? Yeah? It's famous because it used to be at a poster that it was at the wall at Facebook. They made it famous. And now it's every startup, every self-respecting startup has a move fast and break things on their wall, right? But the fun thing about this move fast and break things is not the first part. The move fast. We talked about this. Done is better than perfect. We want to move fast. We want to grow. This is our mindset. It's our culture. But the second part of this is the interesting part. It is the break things. And breaking things has to be allowed in an innovation context. You cannot experiment. You cannot try stuff out. You cannot think big without being allowed to fail. And that is a big cultural problem in organizational societies, organizational structures, right? In SMEs and corporates. You're not allowed to fail usually. Or it feels too hurtful to fail. And people will look at you and finger point to you if you fail. So what's wonderful about the startup culture is we have an experimentation culture, and we allow ourselves to try stuff out. And even if it doesn't work, we don't stick our head in the ground. No, we keep going. Failure is okay and almost expected in our industry. Freshness. Don't ask me about a salad. I googled fresh, and that's the first thing that came up. That actually is quite important, though, because when you want to think about new innovations, scalable ideas, new areas you want to venture in out to, it is so refreshing to not have the shackles of routine or history of your company. You know, corporates, of course, a lot of times have years and years of history and routines, and as a startup, you can very easily go from a blank piece of paper, which is very refreshing and empowering. Agility, we've talked about this before, but what does actually agility mean? Why is it so great? If you have agility, it means nothing but you have a certain dynamic, you can move left and right when necessary, and you have a certain speed of action and reaction. Why is that good? It's because especially if you're in that experimentation phase, you can react to the customer need. You can react to market dynamics. And corporates and SMEs often struggle with this because they have their set process. So this agility is incredibly valuable. And we have the digital first mindset. A lot of times what happens is if you have a existing business that is analog, that is in the real world, and you want to digitally innovate, your mind is still in the non-digital world. As a startup, you can just start fresh, blank piece of paper in a digital context, digital-free, mobile first, for example, right? And that helps a lot also when we talk about digital business models. We're going to talk about this later again a little bit, right? So digital first. But of course, this is all just the nice part, the very green grass part of being a startup. What is the other part? So we have some reasons to definitely not love startups. All of this freedom brings instability, of course. This is obvious. And we have to talk honestly about this when we want to become entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs. We want to be free and agile and go left and right, but it also means there is no clear path. Things change all the time. Some people love this, some people struggle with this a lot. Right? So instability and organizational weakness is a real burden to a lot of startup organizations or intrapreneurial organizations. We talked about experimentation. We talked about trying a lot of things. And of course, you fail all the time. And that is something that requires a lot of emotional strength. It really hurts to fail. It really hurts to work on something for 3 months and then to realize, nobody cares. Okay? I mean, I've done this so many times, and it really doesn't get easier. It doesn't get easier. You just learn how to manage it, right? So we fail a lot because, or we should say fail. We unvalidate certain experiments and hypotheses, right? So we have to be able to nurture this mindset of trying things out and failing and trying again and iterating and iterating and iterating. Startups have the same problem we all have on a personal level. We have no cash, not enough cash. We can't act, we can't buy what we want, we can't hire who we want, we can't get the technology that we want, we can't scale as fast as we want, because of course there is no cash. This is an obvious one. And to be very honest, and I say this to you as a startup entrepreneur, we have actually no idea what we're doing. We're probably good at the digital stuff, but the second things get serious in terms of hardware, production, logistics, we're amateurs. We don't know how this works, right? So, or sales. We're good at digital marketing or online marketing or SEO or whatever, but we're not good at actually building long-term relationships on a B2B offline basis. This is something that we struggle with a lot. So, we're amateurs in a lot of different things. And then if it works, we struggle with a whole new problem, leadership. It's easy to run a 20-person team or 10-person team. But when you grow in this incredibly high-pressured and highly dynamic mindset, you have to have a certain gravitas, leadership style management that is a very different skill set that you need than what you need in the first 2 years of a company when you just start. You know, anybody who's been there in a company from the very beginning to growth knows that the skill set as a startup CEO is a very, very different one than an SME CEO, or a manager, right? So you have to also be able to either change teams, change cultures, or also change yourself as a person, right? It doesn't matter if you're the CEO or corporate innovator or a manager or executive, doesn't matter. But the skills, the required skills change. So, to be a startup that has a lot of trade-offs. We are agile, but we're fragile. Yeah? We are great at everything online, but we're horrible at everything offline. We have a very strong culture, but we have a shitty organization. You know, we have a lot of opportunities, but we fail a lot. And that is the life of a startup entrepreneur or a startup manager. Does that make sense so far? All right? Yeah? So let's look at corporates. To me, honestly, I don't know why I chose this, but to me, this is what I think about when I think of corporates. They all look like this. They're successful, right? They're still successful. So let's look at what corporates are good at and what they're not good at. Let's start with what they're good at. First of all, they have real human resources and they're really skilled, right? It's not just a bunch of millennials trying to build an app. Yeah? There are real skills involved, and that is an incredible value, right? In production, in sales, in everything, right? So we should never, as an SME or as a corporate, feel less confident in a startup environment because they have their skills in whatever they're good at, but we have our skills in whatever we are good at, right? So let's never forget that we have something to offer, to bring to the table as SMEs or corporates. Real experience, real life experience. Some of us do research and development, something unheard of in a lot of startups, right? Research and development is big. Yeah. If something works, we have the capacity, the skills, and the resources, and the organizational structures to scale, to produce, right? Scaling performance. Yeah. We have a certain brand trust, right? People trust us, very different. Usually you don't trust a startup that much when you talk about some serious products. But if you're SAB, there's a whole different quality to anything you do new, right? And there's some cash. Profitability. I think that's from Breaking Bad. I'm not sure. Two different things, so profitability and liquidity. Okay, we're in the bank, so I think it has to be clear that it is two very different things. Both incredibly necessary and two very big problem areas in the startup context, right? So these are this is what works well in an SME and in a corporate context. Let's look at what doesn't work so well in this context. Yeah? Kafkaesque bureaucracy. Right? Everything takes forever because you have to ask 10 people, get approval, and sign 11 documents, get an insurance for this, and do that, and sign another 10 papers, and do some sort of IT adaptation and whatever, and everything takes forever. So that is, of course, in an innovation context where you want to try things out without spending too much money or putting too much effort into it, an incredible burden. This is very, very important for you guys as SME innovators to think about, is how do you get out of this bureaucratic process so that you have the freedom to operate without having to commit to a long-term specific scenario. We will talk about this during the day today, probably a lot, right? Bureaucracy is a problem. Politics. There's people involved who've been there, who've had careers and agendas, and there's the owner, and then there's the owner's son, and then there is this other person, and then there's the new person who's always in trouble. There's always some sort of political agenda, which is normal. We're all humans, right? But this is also a burden for a lot of startups, a lot of SMEs and corporates. And then there is something we call arrogance. We talked about this actually in a startup context, but I actually think it's more even happening in an SME and corporate context. Arrogance in the sense of, not in the sense of I'm the best, but in the sense of NIMBY. Do you guys know what NIMBY is? Know what NIMBY is? What? What is that? Yeah, okay, but no. NIMBY is not in my backyard, right? It's the idea that, hey, this might happen somewhere, but not for me. You know? Cancer is everywhere, but I'm not gonna get cancer. Not in my backyard, right? All of the industries are getting disrupted, but not mine, right? Not in my backyard. And that is, of course, why a lot of old economy industries are getting disrupted, because everybody thinks, how can that be disrupted? How can they change the taxi? Digital, how can an app change the taxi world? That's your bosses, right? This is every time you want to ask for a change. This is exactly what they look like. Let's let that sink in for a moment. I drink coffee. Or a mirror, exactly. Good point, yeah, exactly. So, two different things, lack of drive, right? Because things are working, and this is understandable as well. Why would you change fast? Because you are profitable and you are growing. So I'm not criticizing this at all, to be honest. This is a very normal human response to change if things are going well. So we have to be honest about this mindset of lack of drive, because why would you if everything is going well at the moment? We're going to talk about that in a minute again. And fear of failure, right? Because why, never would change a winning strategy, they say. So if you try something out and you fail, of course, the consequences are too big in a small or large company. Not digitally native, of course, we're all missing the digitally native staff. That makes a big difference in the way we think about digital user experience and digital business models. And all of these together end up in here, disruption everywhere. Even though companies and industries are doing really, really well, there's disruption coming from every side of the industry. From the Ubers and the Netflixes and Airbnbs and Car2Gos of this world, all of the industries, if they're doing well or not, if they're digital or not, if they're IT or not, doesn't matter, they're all being disrupted. Although all of these things are going so well. So let's look at the corporate environment and look very honestly about this. What is it that we're good at and what is it that we're bad at? This is both relevant for corporates and larger SMEs, right? We're great at having stability in our organization, what we have no agility, right? So we're great at having our structure and our process and everything works, but if you want to change something or try something out, it takes forever. We have a lot of engineering skills and offline world skills, but we're actually not that good at digital life, right? We have a lot of resources, but we don't have that drive to change and to come up with something huge and big to achieve 10x growth. We have a lot of history, but we have a lot of history. All right. So, more or less, this is more or less makes sense? Yeah? I'm starting to win you over? Yeah? Okay. You were not? Okay. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, what does that have to do with me? Right? Yeah, I'm an SME. Yeah, I'm not Mercedes-Benz. I'm not Seb. Why are we talking about this? And that is the reason, because I think we can put all of these things together. There is a huge opportunity. The most untapped, the biggest untapped innovation potential in the world are SMEs. I don't understand how it's not the most obvious thing why SMEs are not the best innovators out there. Because let's just think about this. What if we had a type of organization, a type of process, a type of program that puts together that corporate stability with the startup agility? Imagine, what if we had the resources of an SME and a corporate with the drive of startup entrepreneurs? What if we had offline know-how and online know-how? What if we have the trust of the corporate brand and yet the sexiness of a startup process? Wouldn't that be the most amazing digital powerhouse? Wasn't that the ingredient to develop a 10x business model? I think so. This is your great SME opportunity, because you, and I'm not saying everything is in the middle here. every SME is different. If you maybe you're 10 people, maybe you're 200 people, maybe you're 2,000 people. Every company, every corporate, every startup, every SME has a DNA of how to run a business, a DNA of people, a cultural DNA, a technological paradigm, a process DNA, an innovation DNA. And this is what you, as an SME innovator, need to start analyzing and maybe influencing a little bit, right? You are the SME innovators, and you have the power to start slowly or largely start influencing this DNA and making this work for you, right? I want to give a couple of examples of innovations that happened out of an existing business that I quite like. Yeah? Okay? I'm going to have two examples from Germany and one from Latvia. First of all, do you guys know Fiesmann? No, it's not here. Fiesmann is a German company that do water boilers and heating systems. Yeah? So it's a very traditional company. It's a very traditional setup. They do heatings. Like, this is so far away from anything in a digital context yet. What they did is they developed a new business model. They're actually quite active. They're very strong entrepreneurs in our ecosystem. They're opinion leaders in what we do, actually, right? And this is one of the products that came out of it. And I liked it so much because it really reflects the mindset of what you can do as an SME or a corporate or whatever, right? They're in the building. So what they said is, what do our customers have? Well, how do we interact with our customers? We are in their homes. We are in their homes. We do water boilers and heating systems. So they didn't limit their innovation potential to only heating or energy, but they said, okay, how do we innovate in the home context of our consumer and our customer? What they developed is a smart home software and application that unlocks your door with an app and lets people like delivery services, cleaning services, whatever, to come inside your house. They have a little camera. They can be monitored while they come in, leave the stuff and get out again. Such a simple setup, such a beautiful and clean model, which has nothing to do with, if you think about it, with the actual heating system. But it has to do with the company having the trust of the consumer to develop products that are inside your house. And the beauty of this is, and this is why I chose this example, these guys sell heating systems and water boilers, and now they're innovating and experimenting with a subscription business model. That is so courageous, if you think about it. But it's not that difficult. For a startup, that would be the most normal thing in the world. But you as an SME can say, hey, we can not only think about just one step further in our product, what is the digital version of our product, but what is the experience of our consumer in the digital context, and where do we have the trust of our consumer? Where can we innovate in the context of the trust of our consumer? I think this is a great case. I'm not sure if they're successful or not. Doesn't matter. They're trying something cool. Good for them, right? Another example. This is a local trash collection, waste collection company. We work with them, actually. It's called Alba. They're actually a global company, but they're from Berlin. And in the context of trying to see where they can innovate in digital context, right? We found out one thing. We asked ourselves, what do we have with Alba that others don't, right? What is the one thing that we have stronger and better than everybody else? What we realized, again, so this is waste collection on the streets, right? They come to your house and take the trash, right? We realized nobody else covers all of the streets in Berlin. Not the police, not the buses, not the public transit, not anybody else. Waste collection trucks are the only vehicles that cover all of the streets. So we said, okay, wow, that is a whole different mindset than the last one. So we have a great asset. What can we do with that asset that nobody else has? All right, what happened at the end of the day? An experiment to use the trucks as sensor platforms to collect data that have nothing to do with trash, right? So they collect data on the quality of streets and sell it to the city. Like when there's like a pothole in the street, okay. So there's a whole lot of process behind it. We don't need to get into it. But at the end of the day, what's important is that they said, okay, we have a certain asset that we can leverage in the digital context. So again, here they had a certain trust of the consumer. Here they had a certain asset that nobody else had. And both times we thought bigger than what we used to think. How can we leverage this? Does that make sense? Did you understand the case? Yeah? All right. You all know this company, right? It's I hear it's everybody's darling company in Latvia. Why do I love this case? With this case, we can really make a difference between what is an SME mindset and what is a 10x mindset. An SME mindset in the context of t-shirt printing or whatever product printing would be to create an online store, right? To do one specific end-to-end process. Hey, we would open a store, we let people order something, that they can get a certain design on whatever merch they want their logo on, for example. That would be the SME mindset, or the linear mindset, the analog mindset, the non-scalable mindset. The 10x mindset is these guys said, all right, no, let's not just do one sales process, let's actually empower everybody else to do it. Right? So we think much, much, much bigger. We focus on the actual fulfillment and develop our product as a white label plugin for other companies so that we don't have linear growth only, but we can actually have scalable growth. That is a real scalable mindset. Do you understand what I'm saying with developing a plugin that other online shops can use, right? So what they've done is they developed something for Shopify. Shopify is probably one of the biggest on e-commerce platforms, right? Not platforms, but tools. So you can any kind of online shop, you can develop any kind of online shop on Shopify. You can listen to music on Spotify. And that way, they were able to grow substantially and not just linearly, right? To develop something that others can use. Does that make sense? It's a really good case, and you should really think about, not just know this company, but really think about how they made it to this big, right? It's a great case. So, we now know SMEs have the potential to become great entrepreneurs. So let's think about what entrepreneurs can do and what innovation actually means. Yeah? Are you with me so far? Yeah? How much time have we had? Are we good in time? So, what we need to do now is to differentiate innovation, so we all talk about the same thing. For me, there's 3 different areas of innovation that we need to talk about for a second. There's people, there's process, and there's product. And honestly, any other expert or professor or entrepreneur or consultant will give you a different version of this, right? It doesn't matter. This is not about black and white. This is not science. It's just let's try to come up with the same kind of terminology in the term of this program. People, so a lot of the changes that are happening, especially in terms of agility and new work, are changing the way we look at organizations. That is the people part. We're not going to talk about this now, right? But reinventing the organizational purpose and process is about people and organization. Then there is process digitalization. This means that the stuff that you're doing already, to digitalize that, right? This is digitalization. We're not talking about that either, because this is not about 10x, this is not about scaling, this is just about process optimization. What we're talking about is product innovation. Product innovation on your customer-facing value proposition, right? So let's make sure that we all talk about the same thing. We're not talking about process digitalization, we're talking about product innovation. Agreed? Yeah? All right. So when we talk about product innovation, we also have to look at 2 different things. Let's stay on the right side of this. This graphic shows on this axis how well is the domain defined, right? And on this axis, how well is the problem defined. We don't need to get into the technicalities of this, but all I want to do is let's make sure that we're talking about disruptive innovation versus sustaining innovation. Sustaining innovation is linear. It's just saying, let's do what we do a little better, right? Let's do what we do with one additional feature. Let's do what we do with one change or adaptation, right? Disruptive is saying, well, how can we take what we do and just go to a whole new level? How can we leverage digital and what's possible in the context of digital to reach 10x, to reach exponential growth, right? So this program is specifically designed to enable and empower us to think in this mindset. So whilst this is all good and admirable, it's just not the context of this program, okay? So for this program, we're talking about disruptive innovation. I'm not saying that only disruptive innovation is good. Sustaining innovation is also good, but it's a different context. So let's talk about disruption then, yeah? The question for me here is disruption a matter of high tech? Is disruption a matter of technology? Is technology the real driver of radical disruption and 10x changes in our industries? Huh? You say yes? Any opinions? So we had a couple of yeses. Some people nodded. Some people are saying no, but okay, don't want to talk. Okay. All right. Let's look at a few examples. You all have Netflix, right? No? You have Netflix, right? So Netflix is a streaming platform for the ones who don't have Netflix, a streaming platform for TV shows and movies. Yeah? It's an amazing industry. I had no idea before, but apparently in the entertainment industry is one of the biggest industries in humanity. It says a lot about us as humans. But so, who knows Blockbuster? Or any, I don't know what they're called, in German it's Videothek, where you used to go to a store, get a video, a VHS, and go home and had to go take it back. Of course, they don't exist anymore, or very, very few shady ones. Yeah. So, a lot of people think Netflix killed those video stores because of their streaming service, right? Because you can now stream everything online, and it's very easy to. The user experience is great, right? But they started to kill them much before they started the streaming service. You know how? To me, that was insane because, of course, we're all Europeans. I'm from Germany, so I'm also not that customer-centric the way the Americans usually are. So I was living in New York, and that was before the streaming time. And what I learned is that Netflix would send the DVDs to your home instead of you having to go pick that up. And to me, that was insane because it was not more expensive than the other ones. To me, it was like, are they crazy? How would that can't be worth it? They can't make profit with this. And they probably weren't. But they took over one of the biggest markets in human society with a radical customer centricity. They said, okay, how do we get out there and take our product and really change the way customers experience the entire end-to-end process? Radical customer centricity. And it's radical because that at that time, that was a radical move to do this, right? So Netflix killed Blockbuster much before the streaming, right? Because they just said, we'll do anything the customer wants. We'll just take the entire experience to a next level. That is something that can cause disruption. Who here has stayed in an Airbnb before? Yeah? Airbnb is the biggest hotel in the world. Doesn't have a single hotel room. Doesn't have a single hotel room, is the biggest hotel in the world. And it's not technology, sorry, but honestly, 5 of us together can develop the Airbnb platform in a month. It's an idea. It's a business model. It's a culture. It's a change of a mindset. It's a radically misinterpreted human emotion and human desire or human potential that everybody misread before. These guys have said sharing is great. People will share their houses and flats. Something that before we just never thought about. It's just a radically new idea or culture that can cause disruption here as well. Make sense? Hey, bullshit, all right. Chocolate. Which ones? Which words did we use? Disruption, what else? 3, right? More than 3. Okay, but you only said bullshit once, so you only get 1 chocolate. Anybody else has 3 bullshits? No? Good. So, let's go to a very famous case. You all know this case. Who else has a Kodak camera? Do you still anybody has a Kodak camera? Yeah? Hipsters are buying them again. Because it's cool again, huh? To me, the crazy thing is Kodak was actually the one who invented the digital camera. Can you imagine that? They completely missed this whole change and disruption. Because why? Kodak decided, no, we're not going down that path because we are not down the digital path, not going down the phone path, because they said we are in the business of cameras. We are in the business of films, right? This is what we do. We do films. We do cameras. We are Kodak. This is our business. And this is where they were wrong. What is the business of Kodak? Or what was the business of Kodak? No. No. I mean, yes, but no. Dig deeper. Yes. Yes. They're in the business of memories because I, as a consumer, I don't buy a Kodak camera because I want a Kodak camera. I buy a Kodak camera because I want to capture memories. I heard capture somewhere there behind as well. So, if you are customer-centric, you realize what your business is. Why do I have a car? Because I want to go. I want mobility. I don't have a car. Okay, some people have a car because they want a car, right? It's different. I'm from Germany, so but some people want the car for mobility reasons. If you have a camera, you want the memories. And if the technology, and this is where you were right, sometimes it is technology. If the technological paradigm changes and the consumer can fulfill their desire to capture memories in a different vehicle, then that's where you should go. You should go where the consumer goes, right? This is how Kodak died. Or they're coming back now again, but it's a long story. So, customer centricity can change industries. Or save you from being disrupted, let's put it like that. You have shared cars here as well? Yeah, what are they called? Car Guru? Like kangaroo, but Car Guru? Really? Great name. What does it mean to do this? What does it mean? There's two different examples. One is Car2Go, the car guru of Germany. Oh, Car Guru. Ah, okay, that's better. Okay, that's better. So I take it back. Sorry, founders of Car Guru. So, Car2Go, shared mobility services, okay? This is a very different one. This is a platform. It's like a Facebook for neighbors to communicate and support each other, right? The idea of both shared cars, shared mobility, and a platform for neighbors, both are catering to one cultural mega trend that will change the way we live in the next coming years. It's the biggest mega trend that I can feel in my own heart. It's ownership. We all grew up thinking ownership is something to be desired, that I want to have a car, I want to own a car. Or in Germany, everybody has a drill at home. It's a thing. Do you guys have drills at home? Yeah? I don't know, we were like obsessed with drills. My neighbor obviously also has one. And the one below us also has one. It's insane if you think about it. Or a ladder, it's so ugly and big and we all have one. Why don't we just share one in the house? Ownership is such an antiquated concept that is now we're just at the beginning. We're just at the very beginning of this cultural change. Now we're like, oh, okay, maybe car, maybe the drill. In the future, I promise you this, ownership will be drastically reduced because we're all changing the way we think about it. So sometimes disruption can come not because they developed an app, but because the society is ready for cultural change. Platformization is a simple one. Platformization means, okay, you don't have to have an online shop for everything that you do. You just sell over platforms, via platforms, like Amazon, of course, right? Straightforward, right? Breaking of rules, right? We are in a time where, 20 years ago, Uber wouldn't have survived because they would have gone to prison because they're breaking the rules, right? It didn't work before. Same now, Airbnb wouldn't have worked because I was against the rules. But with this digital revolution, we are loosening our rules and we're changing the way we look at these things, right? So breaking of rules can change industries now. We're all rethinking the existing rules, if they make sense or not. Because a lot of these rules, for example, the tax industry, they don't make sense anymore. You don't need to, I mean, in Germany, I don't know how it is here. In Germany, you have to make a super difficult test to learn the streets by heart, which is ridiculous in the time of Google Maps, right? It's ridiculous. And all of these things, this historic, this legacy rules are being softened now. So we've talked about cars. What is the best car in the world? A rental car. No, the company. Which car is the best one? And remember, I'm German, guys. Don't be cool. Be cool. Okay. I'll let you. Okay, chocolate for you. Chocolate for you. Didn't even have to scream bullshit. Of course, Mercedes-Benz makes the best cars, or BMW as a German. It's fine. Of course. The next one. Wait a second. Of course, Mercedes-Benz. It's a great car. It's perfection. It's gorgeous, beautiful. Look at how sexy it is. But if you ask me now, what car do you want? Of course. Of course. But we just said Mercedes-Benz makes the better cars. Why do we want a Tesla? We just literally said Mercedes-Benz has a better car. But we want a Tesla. There is a new digital value proposition. The car itself, and I'm not talking about the aficionados who drive cars because they really want the star, but the ones who use the product the most. The car itself is becoming a commodity. And the value proposition is the software layer on top. And whatever that software layer is, maybe it's the dashboard that you click around the things, maybe it's the automated driving, maybe it's something else, maybe it's the way you can order a Tesla online, I don't know. But the new value proposition for somebody like me, whilst I know Mercedes makes the better cars, I would definitely buy a Tesla if I would buy a car. Because I want the software. And that is the truth for everything. All of our products are changing, the value proposition is changing with the new parameter of digital. So for all of us, we need to reflect on how this affects our business. Yeah? Let's look at a few examples. Let's go with something very abstract. This is a photo of an energy production facility, whatever. Energy is not changing, right? Energy stays energy, right? It's actually not true. It's actually not true. Because the way you use the energy changes the way energy companies have to produce it and deliver it. So it's not like companies like Total are having to change the format, the science of energy. They don't have to do that, but they have to think about what their clients do with the energy and change the way they deliver it, for example. Right? So even energy is changing. Another example. You can't really see it well, but this is a hairdresser. Can you see it? So, okay. Cutting hair is not going to get binary. It's like I cut 10, 10, 10. That's not going to happen, right? It's not about that, but the hairdresser's business being completely digitalized. Not because the hair cutting is binary, not digital. But everything before and after it. The way I, as a consumer, experience it. So, first of all, I want to order online. I want to make an appointment online. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to go in somewhere. I just want to have an app, open it, make reservations. Optimally, it synchronizes with Google Calendar, and this is how I want it to be done. So the way I choose where to go is already changed, because if you're, as a hairdresser, as a hair salon, not on these platforms, remember platformization, now two things are meeting each other. If you're not on those kind of platforms, I'm not going to come to you. right? Even if you're the best hair cutter in town, I don't care that much, but even if you're the best one, I'm not gonna come to you because I care about the digital experience. And that's not the end of it. When I'm there, I don't wanna touch cash. I want to have an automated payment with, and maybe some of the hair salons have that now, but they will all have it within a few years. Payment with credit card or with Apple Pay, right? Now some of them have it. In 5 years, you will not pay anything with cash anymore, right? So the entire experience of a hair salon is being disrupted. And topics even like the distribution of medical equipment for doctors. One of the things that is happening currently is that this platform, Medizintechnikmarkt in Germany, is growing like crazy, right? Things that we wouldn't think is possible online. People would, you would think medical equipment is something like super stiff and very standardized, and there's like a conference and there's a whole lot of old white men doing something with paper and it's very professional and very, no, it's some doctor on his couch while he's watching YouTube and he can order medical equipment now. And they're doing it and they're growing. So the things is, it's not just consumer-oriented stuff that is being disrupted in the process. It's also real B2B topics, right? So it's not just B2C, it's also B2B, right? Does that make sense? All right. Are you still with me, guys? It's been an hour. It's a lot. I talk very, very fast. Should I talk slower? It's fine? Okay. So we've had 3 waves of disruption so far. 3 big waves of disruption. The first one, new economy, was web. The Facebooks and the Googles and Amazons of this world came and changed the way, especially in the B2C world, we do things. The second wave, so this was about 20 years ago, this was about 10 years ago, or 10, 15, and 5, 10. The apps, the smartphones, mobile phones, they changed the way we had not only the internet, but also internet in our pockets. That was the big disruption wave. Now we are in the middle of the third one. It's IoT and B2B. So before it was digital only, and now we are in the wave of disruption where we merge the digital and non-digital world. Right? This is the big wave of disruption now. Which means for us as corporates and SMEs, now is the time where we can really think of our new value proposition in the digital age, even if our core product is not digital. Yeah? And here's the important thing. We've talked about disruption a lot now, but what is the difference of disruption and innovation? It's the speed. Look at this. This is a statistic. This is a graph that shows how long companies needed to become billion-dollar companies. Unicorns, we call them in the startup environment, right? How long did it take for these companies to have a billion-dollar valuation? Typical Fortune 500 companies, and this is the American way to show this, over 20 years, right? It used to take over 20 years to become a billion-dollar company. Google, it took Google 8 years. Facebook, 5 years. Tesla, a car, 3 years or 4 years, I don't know. Uber, 3 years. WhatsApp, 2 years. Snapchat, they're dying again, doesn't matter, but whatever. Slack, do you know Slack? Slack is like WhatsApp for business, right? It took less than a year to become a billion-dollar valuation. I'm not saying it is healthy or good and all of these valuations make sense, right? But they show us one thing, the time to disruption is so much faster. And if you are even here or here and you don't jump on ship fast enough, you will die. And this is the problem of SMEs and corporates, because disruption can come from anywhere. And the thing is, when it comes, it's going to hit you in the face very, very fast, right? Yeah. And we're going to talk a lot about exactly what it actually means when we talk about disruption and scalability and exponential change. We used to grow and innovate linear, right? Especially in the analog world. It always was linear. Can we hire more salespeople? Can we develop another factory? You know, everything was linear because you had to build something, and then you had to ship something, and then you had to sell something and make something. That is the linear world. But in the digital world, things are different now. And this is what we call exponential. And that difference is called disruption. Yeah? And this program, again, is to try to look at exactly this and make sense for us as SME innovators. So, have you heard of 10x? Yeah. Do you know where 10x comes from? Should we do a quick excursus where the terminology 10x comes from? From venture capital, right? So, 10x means following. If I'm a venture capital investor, like a startup investor, right? And I invest into all of your companies, because exactly all of you, 10, right? So, I know that most of you will fail. It's the game of startups, right? Most of you will fail. You. So you're 10 people, right? So let's just say 5 of you will fail completely. 2 of you will maybe bring back some money, but not really, and 1 or 2 or 3 will actually have a big success. So again, I'm not a bank. You know, a bank goes for different financial paradigms. I'm a venture capital investor. So that means I invested 10 companies knowing that 8 of them will not bring back any money, right? It's a high risk investment. So what I'm saying is I have to invest only in the companies that have the potential. So let's just say these 2 are the successful ones, yeah? These 2 successes will have to cover all of their losses. And that is what 10x is. We only invest in you. If you show me as a venture capital investor, if you show me a business model and show me, hey, I will bring 2x, it's wasted money. 2x in a venture capital context is wasted. In a bank context, that's amazing, right? But in a venture capital context, it's not, because it's a different mindset. It's a different vehicle. It's a risk vehicle. So I only want to invest into any idea, and these are as well. I will only invest in you if you show me you have the potential for 10x. And here is the danger, actually, in the venture capital environment. If I invest into you 10x, I expect that fast growth. That's why I keep pushing for scalability, 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 because I don't want to waste my time with you only for 2x. It's crazy if you think about it, actually, that 2x or 3x in the startup context is not good enough, right? So the whole system is a bit broken, to be honest, but it's a whole different topic. That's 10x. So we've adopted this 10x terminology to talk about very scalable models. But to me, I prefer actually exponential. It is pretty much the same mindset. There's a really nice book, Exponential Organizations. I advise you to read it. There's 2 books that you should read. It's Exponential Organizations and Lean Startup. I will show you the other one later. Yeah. So what is an exponential organization? One that can grow, not linear, but exponential. And how do you do that in a digital context? Yeah? First of all, you have global access. Before, you had access to Latvia. Now, if you build a product like Printful, you can be global. Digital means we are reducing borders. So first topic for you. So when you later today think about exponential ideas, don't put yourself in the Latvian border. You may be a Latvian entrepreneur or intrapreneur, but your product is global, can be global. Digital, exactly that, because digital is scalable fast, because you have this virtual context and not physical content that you have to produce. So global, digital, lean organization, which means to develop an organization that doesn't build a very strict hierarchical structure that is very stiff, but is free to move and change the way markets will require you to. And on this on-demand culture, like for example, to not develop a huge asset on, for example, cloud services, right? So we're all learning to use on-demand cloud services instead of building a whole new server for ourselves, just to give us the flexibility to scale up or scale down when we need to. So this flexibility in the organization and asset structure that we have makes a whole difference. And this is what an exponential organization is you have the potential to scale up fast and scale down fast. Scale up in the case of growth and scale down if you need to, because what happens a lot in the non-lean organization or non-on-demand organization, you can have success and scale up, but then you build a whole lot of burn rate, you build a lot of costs, and the second it doesn't go well, you die. So an exponential organization tries to build a structure that can scale up fast, but also scale down fast. That's an exponential organization. Okay? Shall we build a few? I hope so, right? All right. So I have some thoughts that I want to share with you on SME innovation and some practical help that will hopefully support you in the process of this program. Yeah. And we're good in time, I think, which means we can probably do all of them. Hmm? Ah, we're good in time then. Perfect. Ew, it's cold. So, thoughts on SME innovation. Number one. All strategies are big. All dreams should be big. Your admiration, your aspiration should be big, right? And beautiful the way this Boeing 747, most beautiful thing ever built in this planet, right? Love it. That was not relevant at all. Dreams can be big, aspirations can be big, but as an entrepreneur or intrapreneur, we need to figure out a way how to test things in a small way. Especially in a digital world, we have the possibility to do that. We used to, for example, if we wanted to build a new product, we had to build a new factory, and then we would try to sell it, right? Now we have to look at, if we have those big aspirations, how can we modularize it in a small way to actually be able to experiment in different ways, right? What does it exactly mean? Are you familiar with the terminology waterfall? Agile and lean? No? Okay, so this is how the world used to work. Waterfall. Waterfall was a company says, I want to build a product, and then they would design the product, then they would give it to the factory, then the factory would design the machines, the machine would develop the product, and you had the product at the end, and then you would try to sell it, right? This is how the world used to work. I want to sell a car. You wouldn't even start with, I want to build a car. I want to sell this. Then you would go back to, okay, what do I have to build? Waterfall. Like, we write what we want to do. We have functional requirements. We have technical requirements. And we plan the entire development process from A to Z from the very beginning. Engineers know this terminology. It's called waterfall, right? Then, so what is the interesting part about the waterfall? We said we know exactly what the customer wants, and we know exactly what our product should look like. So this is startup terminology, and at the end of the day, you can say what is the desire and what is the product. Yeah. This almost never mattered before, because it was a sales-driven society. So we would build a product, and then we would try to sell it and influence people to actually want to buy it. This was an advertising-driven society, right? Waterfall. Then happened agile.
Bullshit.
Hey, good. Which words?
Agile.
Which else?
Many times, actually.
Many times, all right. 600 times agile.
Thank you.
What is the chocolate actually? Is it Latvian?
Yes.
Say again? Influencer?
Bullshit.
They're tricking me now. They're outsmarting me now. Okay.
No, it was influencer, lean startup, and platformization.
All right, good. Yeah. So you did it right. Hey, it's actually okay. So 6-7 times so far. All right. So agile. The agile methodology changed following. What we said is, okay, we know what the customer wants, right? But we don't know exactly what the variation of the solution would look like, right? So we start an iterative development process where we continuously get feedback from the customer. That is an agile mindset, agile development process.
Bullshit. Again, agile.
No, you have to have 3, and then you can have the same one.
3.
No, not the same one, not the same one though. You're just hungry, aren't you? Eh?
I like chocolate.
You okay, I see the mistake in my system. We're taking agile off the list, I think. So, remember we said we know what the customer wants, more or less what the problem is, what the desire is, but we don't know exactly what specifically we want. Let's just say here we built a fridge and then we try to sell it. Here, in an agile mindset, what we do is we say, okay, we know the customer wants a fridge, but let's include the customer in figuring out how big it should be, how wide it should be, how cold it should be, what color it should have. That is agile. We know what the customer wants at the core, but we don't know the specifics, right? Lean is actually, you see where this is going, right? Okay. So lean is actually saying we don't even know what the customer wants because we are customer-centric. We don't want to build something and try to sell it. No, we want to build something from the very beginning that has the purpose and the chance to really satisfy a certain customer need. And that is the most honest way to approach innovation and entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship. Just to say, I don't know what the customer wants, especially now as an SME where we're trying to probably marry the offline and the online world. And what is the specific need of the consumer that we want to satisfy? It's a very honest and it's a good way to approach this. There is a methodology in this. I'm not going to say it because we have given too much chocolate. But this book is amazing. If you will never in your entire life read another book, you have to read this book. This book is everything. I'm not a fanboy like this, but this book is just too good not to read. You must read it today. Okay? It gives you more or less the tool to think big but test small, right? How does it actually work? It's very straightforward at first, but it's actually quite brilliant at second. So bear with me for a second. The methodology is nothing but you build something, a little bit of a product, you measure, you acquire some data, you learn from this data, you reflect on the data you collect, and then you build new ideas, and you go into that iteration. Super straightforward, right? It's actually not. The brilliance actually is here. What it says is that everything you think the customer wants or any process in the paradigm of your business is just an assumption. Is you think that we thought people will not share their homes, right? But no, Airbnb changed the entire industry. What is the assumption that what is the underlying assumption for your business idea? And then you go to say, what is the critical hypothesis around that assumption? Like, what is, for my business idea, the most critical one that can validate or invalidate what I'm trying to do, right? And then you design an experimentation as small as possible to create some validated learning. Yeah? It is described wonderfully in the book, right? But at the end of the day, the mindset is you know nothing. Test it with data, or it's just an assumption. And assumptions are worth nothing. Right? Ideas are worth nothing. The only thing that's worth anything is data. Right? So we need to start building something to be able to start testing, right? So we don't want to build the entire product. Remember, lean, we don't want to go that far. We want to test something with as little effort as possible. And this is what we call a minimum viable product. The MVP, the minimum viable product, is a version of a product, any version of a product, which allows the team to collect the maximum amount of data or learning, validated learning, with the least effort possible. It's a certain version of a prototype. Yeah? What does it actually mean? It feels a bit abstract. Right? It feels a bit abstract. So we talked about cars a lot, right? So what would the MVP of a car look like? If we want to test if the customer wants this, Is that the MVP? Yeah, good, very good. Which 3 words? You always have to say the 3 words that you heard. No, you always do. You can't use one word 3 times. They're cheating. Well, it's okay. So. Yeah, 3 different words. 3 different words. The big prize, you get all of the chocolate if the 3 words are right next to each other. Huh? So, a tire is not an MVP, right? Because why? Because we can't test anything with it. It's a feature. It's a component. It's not even a feature. It's a component of a car. And a component, you cannot test anything with it. So a wheel is not an MVP. Is this one an MVP, a scooter an MVP? Now, it depends on what our assumption is. And here is the creative energy for you as an entrepreneur. What is the underlying critical business assumption that we are using for the minimum viable product? Is it that people want to just have any means of transportation from A to B? Maybe this is a good MVP. I don't think so, because it doesn't reflect the experience. It doesn't really reflect the experience here. You can argue that it is an okay-ish MVP for a certain case, but for me it's not enough because it doesn't reflect the actual experience that we want to do. This one, much closer, which means we don't need to build the entire setup, color it. We don't need to give it features or give it thousand different versions of the product. We just have to develop the core of the product, right? Put a customer in and see if they enjoy it the way we think they enjoy it. And actually, this is not a good MVP either, right? This is the first version of the product. A really good MVP, and this is very, very important. A really good MVP is not this, it's this. You fake the product experience, you fake it in a way that you don't have to spend a lot of money, because this one would require an engine. But to build the engine will cost a lot of money. So your creative energy as an entrepreneur is to figure out what is that for your product idea that you can build with very little time and little money to test the idea. This is the most important context of digital entrepreneurship, in my opinion. It sounds easy, but when you get to your own products, it becomes quite challenging. It's quite an intellectual exercise to figure out what is the critical business assumption and what is the minimum viable product that I can test it with. There will be more on this in another lecture, right? So now we're just trying to get accustomed with the idea. You will learn much more about it in a different time. I want to give you the most famous example of an MVP. Zappos. Zappos. Do you have Zalando here? Zalando, like an online clothing store and shoe store. No? No? So it's the biggest fashion online store in America and in Germany and in many other countries. It's Zalando, and there it's Zappos. So they started with shoes before even t-shirts and everything else. And these guys said, we think we can sell shoes online. And everybody was like, are you crazy? That's the worst thing to sell online. Who wants to buy shoes because you have to test it? So their assumption was, no, I think we can. But before, I mean, that was a time where there was no Shopify yet, right? There was no Shopify. To build an online store was quite a task. And these guys didn't have any money or anything. So what they did is they built a very simple landing page. They went to a shoe store. They took photos of the shoes. They went home, they uploaded the photos. Then they put 50 or 100 or 500 euros advertising on Google. And then they saw, okay, when people ordered a shoe, they would go to the store, they would buy the store, they would go home, they would pack it and then ship it. That's a perfect MVP because they tested. You know what the assumptions were? A, they tested successfully. People want to buy shoes online. B, people are willing to pay an extra for delivery. C, people will not have a high return rate of the shoes. 3 most essential assumptions for an online fashion store. And they didn't have to build an actual store. They just faked it. They validated all 3 assumptions, and now I'm one of the biggest startups that there are. Right? Minimizing risk with just creative experimentation. I didn't get that. Say. Okay, now of course, yeah. By now, yeah. Yeah. So another one. Has that happened to you ever? You ordered something online and then you got an email. Sorry, we're out of stock. Yeah, there was never a stock. That's what we do if you want to see how much you're willing to pay. So we call it smoke test. It's morally a little bit gray area, but if you want to know if a product, even if a product doesn't exist yet, right? You just fake an online store, or you go on Amazon, whatever, and you put it out there, and then you see if people are willing to buy it or not. And then you validate, A, do they want to buy it, or what is the price they're willing to pay for it, right? And only after you learn the price, the best price point that the customer is ready to pay for it, then you make the decision, okay, now I'm going to invest into producing this, or even starting a company like this. It's called a smoke test. Yeah? It's brilliant. So, principle number 1 for SME innovation, think lean. How much time do we have? 10 minutes, great. You with me? It's a lot of content, huh? Number 2. You know what a pivot is? This is an insider joke for everybody who... Yes, very good. Which 3 words? Very good. Sarkana Magone. This is an insider joke for everybody who watched the TV show Friends. Anybody who watched Friends? Pivot? Okay, great. I have my Friends nerds here. It was the funniest scene of all Friends, all 10 seasons. Anyway, a pivot is a course correction of your strategy based on validated learning. So we have the lean mindset, we are experimenting, but we also have to have the mindset to change whatever we are trying to do based on the data that we learn, right? So we will have to have a pivot-friendly strategy and mindset. There are different types of pivots: customer pivot, product pivot, technology pivot, and business operations pivot. I will not talk a lot about this, but very, very shortly, just for you to understand in which direction a validated pivot can go. First one, you learn that you have a good product, but you learn somehow that you should go for a different target group. So you validate the use of the value proposition of your product, but you learn that somehow it's not the young mothers buying it, but for some reason it's the young dads buying it, right? Actually, the funny thing is that we did this exactly this with a client of ours. They developed a product that was completely oriented towards women, but we learned after looking at our data that actually husbands are buying it as presents only. Like this is only like a present kind of setup. So we completely changed our marketing towards it. Brilliant, right? Customer need pivot. So we say, okay, actually we validate that our target group has certain desires and needs, right? But we have to change our product, where our product suggestion is not really fitting that. So in the process of collecting data, we learn that we have to change something on our product to make it work. Product pivot now, okay? Zoom in and zoom out. Instagram is a famous example. Instagram used to do 1,000 different things, right? They used to have a location-based platform and everything. And they had 1,000 features. And then they realized most people are using our platform only for the photos. So they cut off everything else and only did the photos. It used to be a big platform for 1,000 different things. People don't know that. So they did a zoom in pivot on their most important feature. These guys, of course, they did a zoom out pivot. Right? They said, okay, we've started the pictures and blah, blah, and then they've added a bunch of different functionalities. This, of course, usually makes sense if you have a certain user base. Right? Technology pivot, Netflix changed to streaming, or a business model pivot. This is interesting. We all use Microsoft. We used to pay $100 a year or something for the CD. Now it's a subscription service. I think they have both now, but most people are using the subscription service. So maybe it's not the technology that's changing, maybe it is the pricing model that is changing. That's a potential pivot. The importance for this is for you guys, you have to iterate a lot. In the course of this program, you have to go into the loop again and again and again and again. And only that way, you will come up with a really good product at the end of the day that has validated target group, customer value, pricing model. You have to experiment, you will fail, it will hurt, you will learn from it, you will repeat the process from the beginning, and you will continue to learn to make a better product. So, number 2 is iterate and pivot when necessary. Whew, that was fast. Number 3, in God we trust. Everybody else has to bring data. Yeah? You have to get accustomed to data-driven culture. Yeah? And there's so many different data. And what I want to you to understand is there's KPIs and there's metrics. And other experts will define them in a different way, but for now, for the sake of this, we're not talking, when we're innovating, not talking about the business KPIs only, the key performance indicators, the revenue and everything. But we have to look at the metrics of the product usage. How many times people are using it? Are they coming back to our product? How are they using it? How long are they using it? You will learn more about this in the course of this program. But remember, when we talk about data, it's not just revenue and cost. It's actually the in-between metrics of the usage of your product, right? I want to give you a quick example on this. Data-driven culture means to analyze every single step of your process. And this is what digital can do, what offline can't do. So let's look at any business model that is, let's say Netflix. Yeah? We talked about Netflix a little bit. Let's just say if you sign up with Netflix, you are here, right? And let's just say you have a new customer coming to your website that is not a customer yet, right? They come to your website. So every step in between can be analyzed online. Every step. So let's just say you're doing Google advertising for €1 per click. Let's just assume that, yeah, €1 per click. So you're paying, Netflix is paying €1 for somebody new to click on the website, the ad. Then that's a unique visitor, right? Then you can analyze, do people who are coming to our website for this €1, do they click around, do they look at the stuff, yeah? Do they stay on the website, right? How many percent, what is the conversion of the people who come to our website who will stay on the website? Then what is the conversion from the one who click around on our website to sign up for a free account, right? So from the ones who signed up for a 2-week free Netflix account, how many of them will convert to a paying customer, right? And let's just say it costs €10 a month, yeah? So what is a typical retention rate? What is a typical timeline a customer stays with Netflix? Is it 12 months? Is it 2 years? 3 years? Every single step is business critical for you, because if you mess up one step, this is how you spend too much money. Data culture is saying, we analyze, and this can be offline sales process too, huh? You just have to do the math. It means look at all of the steps and walk your way through to have a data-driven culture, right? That means, number 3, be obsessed with data. How much time do I have? Perfect. 4. Okay, let's do this really fast. Read this real quick. Are you imagining that person? Somebody from the UK, born in 48, raised, married, successful, wealthy, 2 children, loves the Alps and likes dogs. Imagine this person. It's the truth, huh? So, customer segmentation, the way we used to do it, is not appropriate anymore. We have to look at our consumer because they have different behaviors, different cultures. So what we're saying is, and we're going to talk about design thinking and personas later in the workshops, but what we're saying is be obsessed with your customer, not just by the segmentation, but why they want to do things the way they want to do things. Yeah? The values of a customer, their fears, their pain points, their high points. So be obsessed with your customer, and how to do that is with design thinking methodology, which we will cover in the workshop after the lecture this afternoon. There you go. Oh, last minute bullshit bingo, very nice. So, very, very last thing, this doesn't take a lot of time. if you do everything the way you've always done it in your SME, it's not going to work because you are in that structure, that process that always has been going. It doesn't allow, it goes for perfection, not for experimentation. So you have to be a little bit of a rule breaker, which in the context, you've seen this probably a million times. Let's do it a million the first time. You have to figure out what is the comfort zone of yourself or your company, your SME, and this is actually where the innovation process will happen. So you have to, not only for yourself, but also for other people in your organization, make sure they understand that the innovation process is not the comfort zone of the SME. It's something different and they have to be okay with it. Yeah? Okay. So leave your comfort zone and make others leave it with you, right? So guys, thank you very much for your attention. It was fun. We have time for questions?
We have 3 minutes for questions. What was the first business when you came back to Germany that went?
The
What was the product?
Do you know Yelp? Where I lost it. Thanks for reminding me. This is fun. Do you know Yelp? Foursquare. Something like that. Just shitty. That, but in bad. No, really, it was a hyper-local platform to find restaurants, hotels, bars. It was a time where Foursquare and Yelp and Google were all fighting for market share. Yeah, I was getting traction in Germany, but then the German version of Yelp, Quip, got all of the market share, and then they were acquired by Yelp, and now, so a city platform. The lean startup. Yeah. The MVP and pivot is very well described in that book, yeah. Yeah, you should read it. What? I would never drive a car. Urban mobility ownership is crazy. No, I use car to go all the time. It's smart. A good question. If I really owned the car, that would have been embarrassing. I didn't understand the question. Say again. Well, the bigger the company, the more. The question is which companies in the old economy haven't changed and are still operating, right? The truth is that the bigger the company, the more products they have and the more diverse they are. So it's very difficult to just pinpoint it down, right? But the truth is that you have movements within every company that are trying to do this, right? But there are industries that are completely undigitalized yet. Yeah? There's other industries that are very digitalized yet. It starts, for me, it starts with even payment methods. In some companies, you still have non-automated payment. So you can look at it from an industry or from a process step, actually. Yeah. But the question, which companies are completely undigitalized yet? Ooh, it's a difficult one. Kodak. They're out of business, yeah. Blockbuster. Exactly. The crazy thing is, it's not. Exactly. Actually, this is a good point. Actually, here, the question really is not what is the newest product of that organization or company and how digital is it, because everything is changing so much. There is not every SME or corporate has this one final new product. You have to develop an organization that allows experimentation in all directions. This is a concept that I quite like, and this which represents what an organization should look like to allow digital experimentation in this culture. And for me, the most important thing here is that these hierarchies in old organizations, right? They're being broken off. We're going from hierarchies to networks to increase the speed, so cross-functional collaboration. This is what's more important for a big organization is not if they have the newest digital product, but if they're changing their organization from within to allow the continuous development of digital innovation, right? Or from, we used to plan and now we experiment. All of these things are much more important than the one final product that you do, right? Last question? No, oh, that was it? One more. Yeah. Yeah. Some people are doing subscription now. Look at Microsoft. I don't even know. Is it even possible to buy the software instead of renting it? I don't know. Microsoft? I don't know. For example, but yeah, theoretically, to subscribe to Microsoft Office is more expensive if you think about it. Yeah. But actually, you know, I'm willing to do that. I'm much more relaxed with a subscription than buying a software for $200. You know, so yeah, sometimes it is more expensive, but sometimes if the culture of consumption is changing towards not committing to a long term, so maybe it's not just the price, maybe it's just also the culture that is changing. But yeah, in some cases it doesn't make sense. I think we have to cut because we have a lot of workshops coming up. All right, cool.